Pathak. Today we are going to discuss about how you can change your organization culture, how you can get better organization culture, how you can get constructive organization culture. This session is very important for entrepreneurs, CEO, CFO, CEO, all higher managerial profile along with HR. So let us get into the detailing of this subject line. So if you ask what is the organization culture? Traditionally, answer is norms, value system, rules, how people behave, how employees are going to behave. But that is not a answer to the definition of organization culture. That is not an answer to real sense of organization culture in corporate. Actually, the organization culture in corporate meant what is expected behavior of employees as per management vision and mission. So what management is expecting behavior of employees with respect to our vision and mission. Always remember, organization culture comes third. Like you have first vision and mission is, you know, pathway to vision, and organization culture is how you're going to walk. That is something which is organization culture. What should be the ways to maintain and to get the destiny? Not all behavior which is expected, because management cannot describe the behavior for all context. So many behavior which is implied, and why particular employee is going to behave in a that way, because he or she feels that if I'm going to behave in a that way I will be rewarded by management. So that's something which is implied behavior. It has great connectivity with positive reinforcement. And organization culture is just not about how employee is going to behave. It is also going to talk about the what type of process you're going to have in your organization. What are the ways of doing work, how you're going to give services to your client, what should be the right pathway. So organization culture is also about process. It is also about the systematic structure. What type of system prevailing in your organization? Do you believe in open culture? Do you believe in a ladder way? Do you believe in a flat span? Do you believe in a broad span? Do you believe in a narrow gauge? So all these things are a system which you can have in your organization. Organization culture talks about that. And all these things is going to create a business alignment. So organization culture is not going to have any significance if it is not going to contribute to business. So it is very important that it must contribute to business. You can have a very entertaining organization culture in your organization, but if it is not going to contribute to business, it has no use. That's not going to be called as a constructive organization culture, because constructive organization culture is all about creation, constructing, and construction is always developing. Now in corporate, in different organization, you will find orientation which you can in short understand that this is a types of a culture prevailing in market, prevailing in corporate, prevailing in organization. So some organizations are cohesive. Each of the employees are supporting each other without boundaries. They don't have any limitations. They don't have any borderline, and they find organization as a family. So that's a cohesive. Some organization are very rigid. They believe in a authority. They believe in a hierarchy, aggressive. Organization you can find like each of the department is coordinating with other department wholeheartedly. That is very important. Each of the department is interwoven with the other department, and that's integrated. But if each of the department is having their own chemistry, their own mechanism of separating themselves from other department, if they have their own norms, their own value system, own they have defined some things in their own way, then that's a broken organization culture. Organization culture could be aligned to the vision, mission, or it could be no way incident on a vision and mission, so no use. In many organizations, you will find promotion by flattering, nepotism, and favoritism. That has very disastrous effect in long term, and that's a problematic organization culture. And in many organizations, the things are very transparent and appraisal is based on measurable values. Appraisal is quantified. That's an effective organization. Effective organization always contributes to business with the optimum use of potential of your employees. And all these things on a side of constructive organization culture that is cohesive, integrated, aligned, and effective is going to create developing organization culture. Whereas aggressive, broken, random, and problematic organization culture is going to retard your organization, and that's is going to create a retarding organization culture. Now, when you're creating the layout foundation of constructive organization culture, you will have to understand that management must be participating in that completely and deeply. That is very important. So management cannot keep themselves aloof and saying this that this is the work of HR department. Why we are going to bother about? You create. Management will have to participate. Will have to see each of the intervention. Will have to measure effectiveness of each of the intervention. You cannot leave this work on anyone's head. Then when you're creating the organization culture, you have to understand the junction of communication. Not only the junction of verbal communication or written communication, you have to understand the junction of other ways also. In the sense I meant like with respect to postures and gestures also, non-verbal way also. So you will have to find out the communication junctions and you will have to get the intervention interwoven in that way. And that can be created with rearrangement. First you have to de-learn the ill organization culture, you have to de-learn the distracted organization culture, and then reframe, re-engineer the new organization culture. And then you can have a prevailing constructive organization culture. That is only created if you have good trust of your employees on you. So you have to win the trust, otherwise they're not going to get engaged, involved in that. And when you have these things, you have to get stepwise, step 1, step 2, step 3, step 4. And see, one thing is very important. When you start something, initially people, I meant your employees, will be very motivated, and slowly they will lose their motivation. If it's going to happen, then you cannot create sustainable, long term, great organization culture. So you will have to motivate them throughout the establishment of constructive organization culture. So motivation is very important. And you cannot leave this thing for a indefinite period. So obviously you have to categorize the period also in a sense of till what time you have a time limit. Like you want the reflection in 3 months, you want a reflection in 6 months. What type of reflection you want to see in 3 months? What type of reflection you want to see in 3 months, 6 months? What type of reflection you want to see in a long term? So that you have to categorize in realistic way. Now understand, when you have created the constructive organization culture, you cannot say that you have created unless and until it is going to be reflected in your process, whether that process is involving your client, customer, or your employees itself. So that must be reflected in process, that must be in a deliverables. even if you're Even if you're writing a normal letters like vendor form, or you can talk about the anything invoice and everything, your culture should be depicted in that also. There is a way to depict that, there is a way to show that. Like you can see in a restaurant, if they're writing like come on in, we are open, this can be written in a more involving way. And that you can realize when you go to different restaurant, they are writing this thing in a different ways. So that is showing their, that is reflecting their culture also. And this reflection which is mentioned here, that meant your social image in social platform. How do people see, outside people see your organization in YouTube or LinkedIn or Facebook or any other ways. And the elements of your organization culture involves most important element, that is interpersonal communication. How employees are how employees are behaving with each other, how employees are involved with each other, how employees are communicating with each other, how employees are treating each other. So that is also important. And your organization culture must have the engagement for all the employees. They are all engaged in the work, engaged in the output oriented culture, engaged in a development oriented culture, engaged in a healthy culture. And that all together creates a propagation, that all together creates a movement. So if your organization is not moving with new culture, that means your culture is not right. Because organization culture is dynamic concept, it is not a static concept, it is a dynamic concept. So that propagation is required. So methodology which I generally use in my consulting work, I go with first observation. There are a lot of tools which I use in a observation, from psychometric test to self analysis to interwoven strategies. There are a lot of tools which you can use in a observation part. And then we get a treatment, what should be the right treatment for ill culture. If you are having a wrong culture in an organization, if you're having a distracted culture in an organization, what should be the right diagnosis. And then creation of the model. But always remember, you cannot adapt others model, because the baseline of every organization is different. The story of evolution of each and every organization is different, so you cannot create same model for two different organizations. You have to frame new model. Once you have created, then you have to level it, you have to see the realistic approach, how much realistic approach you can find in that model, to what extent you can do, to what things which cannot be done, many things which cannot be done. So that you have to see. And again you have to see with the how this can be absorbed better way in among employees and in organization in different ways that I told you earlier also. So absorption is to be there. Once you have done with this, now you study the impact part. So you study the impact, whether the right impact is there or not. So that impact part is nothing but the evaluation. So you evaluate whether the right diagnosis which you have done, are you getting right result or not. Like how doctors, they treat a patient, right? They give a particular medicine and then they wait for a response. So you will have to see that also. If you are keep on giving medicine and not looking at the response, you may, you may get into the wrong organization culture. So that is also very important. Once you have done this, then you redevelop, redesign new concept, new observation, diagnosis way, new observation. You can observe new things also. Then again, this is going to be in a cyclic way. So I have created this methodology. I implement this methodology, which is my copyright. So this you can implement in organization. And if you want any help from my side to change your organization, do contact me. I'm going to help you to reframe, to establish right organization culture for constructive growth and for higher profitability. Thank you.